We always begin with the latest on health. Pomegranate, the peel in particular, has protective effects against enteropathogenic bacteria. This is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and this was published in the peer-reviewed journal Nutrition. Now, we know that when you eat pomegranate, you're getting nitric oxide, and we know that that helps expand your arteries and your veins, and that allows greater blood flow to the brain and to the extremities, and it helps give you better circulation in your calves, because a lot of people I counsel have intermittent claudication, and they don't exercise enough. They should have. Look, if you can afford a leg press, you should have a leg press. They're not that expensive. You can get them for as low as $500. But boy, does it do a lot of good for your legs, your calves, all the veins. They really helps you in the muscles, because it's one of the things that you start to lose muscle mass as you get older, over the age of 40. And this is one way to get it back. In any case, the pomegranate, the beet juice, the rhubarb, and other fruits and vegetables, they're rich in this supply. So we know the pomegranate, the actual juice from it, helps to heal the tiny little tears and cuts in the epithelium, the lining, which can cause clotting. So it's great to prevent heart attacks. We didn't know the peel was good at this level. And why? Because according to this study, it's rich in polyphenols, and like punicalins, M-U-I-C-A-L-I-N-S, and ellagic acid, E-L-L-A-G-I-C. Now, these are chemicals. You could have 400 chemicals per fruit that we know of, a lot more we don't. And these all have functional ability in your body. That's why the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the more juices you drink, the more enzymes you flood your body with, the more these start to heal the body. So pomegranates are terrific. They have antibacterial action. And so this is just one more thing that they can do. They can help with E. coli. And E. coli is a major problem in the United States. And generally you get E. coli, if you're the average person, by not thoroughly and completely washing your fingers and fingernails after you've your fecal excretions, and you don't realize when you're using toilet paper, that can go right through the toilet paper, right onto your hands. And then people just stick their hands under the water for a second, and you've got to scrub the hands and fingernails for at least 22 seconds to help eliminate that. But that's where people get infected. Or you go to a restaurant and you order a salad, healthy salad. You don't know who's touched the salad. You don't know if their hands were clean. So it is very common, one more reason why, pomegranate fruit peel contains bioactive compounds that can help reduce the severity of these infections. Something else that's important, this is from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Harvard School of Public Health. A new study shows that vitamin D can protect against young-onset colorectal cancer. So consuming higher amounts of vitamin D, mainly from dietary sources, may help protect against development of young-onset colorectal cancer, or what we call precancerous colon polyps. And that's the first study to show such an association. There are tens of thousands of studies in PubMed concerning vitamin D alone. It does so many good things. But according to this, it can help. And while the overall incidence of colorectal cancer has been declining, and I believe that is mainly because people going towards a high-fiber, healthier diet, plant-based diet, but younger people are not. The majority of younger people are going towards the pizzas and the hamburgers and the things you see on television. They order them in. Understandable. Inexpensive, fills them up. They develop a taste for it, salty and crunchy, soft and sweet. Now, older people are adhering to a more healthy diet, and there's a segment of the younger people who are influenced, more often than not, by their family to eat a healthier diet. But for the average person, you shouldn't be seeing colorectal polyps in young people, and certainly not colorectal cancer, nor heart disease, nor arthritis. We're seeing all those in young people today. So one more reason to take your vitamin D3. Also, from the University of Pennsylvania comes a study about when you set your own exercise goals, but then immediately pursue them, is more likely to result in lasting positive changes. And that's according to the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. And that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association Cardiology. So most behavioral changes, if we are the ones setting the goal, if you personally say it's time for me to get up, stop being so sedentary, and I'm going to do the following, and you set yourself a schedule. Remember, you're on a spectrum. Don't try to do it too fast. Don't try to do too hard. You have to start getting gradually into condition, and as you're getting into condition and you start seeing your heart rate drop, which is good, then that means that your heart's getting healthier. It's also adding years onto your heart. You could add 10 to 20 extra years onto your heart if you did this. Now, let's just say that you're forced to do it. You had a heart attack or a stroke, and now your doctor says you've got to stop eating this junk food and you've got to start to exercise. The likelihood of sustaining that is less than if you decided to come to that on your own. So, and by the way, I remember once, what was her name? Mary Ann Torellis. Terrific. World-class athlete. And you knew you were doing well if you could keep pace with her in a race. She always won everything in the women's division. And she sponsored a race up in Connecticut. It was a mall. I'd never raced in a mall before. And it was a big mall, and you had back and forth, back and forth. And before the race, I saw all these people in there. And I was talking to them, and they go there every morning because the mall is safe, and it's winterized and summerized, so the temperature is always good. And they do their workout. So once again, that philosophy of having a support system, even a mall. So we got to get into the idea of exercising. But this simply shows that when you're choosing to exercise and then you motivate yourself to start, you're much more likely not only to benefit, but to sustain it. Also, from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, they compared seniors who relocate long distance, and it shows that where you live affects your longevity. So ask yourself this, would you like to live longer? Turns out that where you live, not just how you live, can make a big difference. I was asked once by someone doing a profile for an article, why'd I live in the woods, upstate New York for 14 years at the Fertler Farm, and I'd be up there on the weekends, and that's when we did our teaching classes on organic farming. And there was a core of us, Dr. Donald Mullen, who was with the Albert Ellis Institute, and he was also the chief psychologist at the Tri-State Healing Center for 15 years, and 10 years before that, when I just had a private practice. And he would try to show the power of positive thinking, something Norman Cousins wrote a great book on. And he would get people to understand that if you wake up in the morning and you have nothing to live for, and if you have a bad attitude and you're looking for something to justify that you're a victim, you'll find it. But also, that speeds up the disease and death process. And there were others before him who had acknowledged that. But he was keen on that. And I saw so many people's condition turn around after they were counseled by him. And he was just one of those super, super gentle human beings. Great guy. Anyhow, we had about 15 of us that loved farming, loved teaching, and we all volunteered to teach people. People learned a lot, thousands of people. I remember one day when I heard a knock at the door. I went to the door, and there was this older couple, and they said, we're just in the neighborhood, thought we'd drop by and see what you're doing here. So I said, sure. They were Scott and Helen Nearing. You talk about well-known people in the field of having successful academic careers and moving to show what it's like to live off the grid. They were the leaders in that. Very humble people, extremely knowledgeable. Everything they did themselves. And, that was one of those remarkable days for me. But just being able to walk through the woods, just to sit on a log and watch nature, listen to nature, be mindful in that moment, So I know what it meant for me. I know what it's meant to live on an animal sanctuary in Florida for 25 years. The joy of seeing nature evolve, even at its worst. There's always a day when the sun comes back out and the storm is past. So in any case, here's what this study found. The findings found that when you move to a location away from where you were, and you're part of the 10th percentile in terms of how much the areas enhance longevity, you go to a place that is beautiful. You go to a place that is sustainable. You go to a place that is green, in whatever interpretation you want. You're going to live a longer life. How much longer? Just that alone. Just moving back to nature, 1.1 years. Now, that's a robust boost, considering that we just finished. And by the way, remember I told you 2 years ago I was commencing on a study, the first ever, to show could I take a group of people, put them in a controlled environment, and then everyone doing the same thing, how that could change their actual DNA, their actual hard, objective blood chemistry. It's not subjective. It's not subjective when you're measuring specific elements within the blood in the cells before and after. It's subjective when you say, how do you feel? I feel better. Okay, well, that's subjective. But not only that, but even this morning, 4 o'clock this morning, I got an email saying that my article had been accepted for peer-reviewed publication, PubMed Journal, and listed journal. And that's a big deal. And it wasn't just me. It was Luann Panisi and Dr. Ronald Klatz and Dr. Robert Goldman and Richard Gale and Roland Marconi, all the people who participated, Barbara Duncan, all the people who participated, John Q. There are probably 30 of us that participated. Now we're in our fifth study. Fifth study's coming up a couple weeks. And again, you don't look at the difficulty and challenges of creating something and then doing it. You see what is the benefit and how can that lengthen other people's lives. I'm saying right now, there is no reason that anyone listening who chooses to change, not simple changes, major changes, could add 20 years onto their life from this day forward, and even longer, depending upon how much you were willing to incorporate. Just this one study shows 1.1 years to get out of the city, and yet people are not doing that. They're being forced out, but unfortunately they're going from the city not always to a better place. And also, something we've been talking about for a long time, the University of Vienna, which is in Austria, found that biomarkers that indicate early brain injury in extreme premature infants, the gut bacteria. So the early development of the gut, the brain, and the immune system are closely integrated. Therefore, whatever a mother eats and drinks will go through her breast milk and influence to the positive or negative the baby. And then what the baby starts to pick up epigenetically will influence it at the psychic level and the emotional level. And then what the baby then eats once they're off breast milk, all that's going to determine, do you have good gut bacteria or bad gut bacteria? Because then you're going to have either good immune development or bad immune development, good brain development or bad or brain development. So that's what this study shows. So really pay attention to the quality of the microorganisms going in your body. We're 20 minutes into our program. That's the latest on health and healing. One last one, University of Alabama found a combination of metabolite of leucine, L-E-U-C-I-N-E, glutamine, G-L-U-T-A-M-I-N-E, and arginine can improve vascular function and blood flow as you get older. That everyone benefits from. So just 3 simple things, amino acids you can put in there. We're at the end of our health nutrition segment. We're going to take a break. Now, here's what's going to happen. When we come back from the break, we're going to this professor. Again, I gave you his bio. He is one of the most respected professors for what his field. He's checked off all the important to say, should we at least pay attention to what you're saying? He has no political or economic investment. He's non-political. He's non-ideological. He's simply saying when his team, a whole lot of other scientists, when they did the analysis a major bedrock of everything the COVID pandemic rests upon, was grossly flawed. It's a little technical, but watch it because he's going to be showing charts that were published in peer-reviewed journals so you can see them, download them. This is hard, objective, scientific evidence, and that's what you will have on the other side. You have grossly biased, politicized, weaponized opinions that don't mean diddly squat, yet they have the power, and you don't. Oh, and by the way, on tonight's Progressive Commentary Hour, we have one of the world's leading authorities on glyphosate and genetically engineered foods, Professor Senefa from MIT, with 4 degrees from MIT, including a PhD. And we are going to be sitting down to a long interview for the full hour on the politics of science, the corruption of science, the gaming of all science in the media, and how even the truth becomes a lie, and the lie is fed to us and we begin to believe it. So it's going to be a really insightful hour, and that'll be tonight at 7 p.m.